August Wilson, right? You saw and Netflix has the piano lesson and Miss Evers. No, not Miss Evers' Boys. The piano lesson, and there's another play that's on Netflix with Viola Davis, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, right?
Oh, yeah.
Those are two plays that I highly recommend that anybody should watch because the reality is, again, and I mean in the diaspora. You talked about diaspora.
Mhm.
Wherever there's an evidence.
Hey, viewers, once again, thank you for coming on to the Nana Yayawa podcast, where we have insightful conversations with magnificent people.
Splice Original.
The way that based on the things that I've seen you do and the way that you present yourself online, absolutely, there's a warmth, there's a charm, but there's also a very sharp intellect, right? And that by that I mean you represent the culture so well, right? And
Thank you.
yeah, and so generationally, it feels like we're in this moment where people are looking for the past and what's the future, and you're right on that intersection in your conversation, right? You're bringing people who generationally are excited about the future, but you bring them into the space of, oh, in Ghana XYZ, or now that I'm in this space, this is entrepreneurship. Like you hit so many different facets of people's personalities, and I think that's what it makes it engaging. And that's why I wanted to say yes, because I'm a fan, but also because, oh, I'm going to learn something too, so why not? Let's do it. Let's do it.
Yob me, yob me. This is what we call yob me small. Yob me, yob me. No, yob me big.
Yeah. Oh,
Yob
yeah.
me.
Big time. Big time. Oh.
My brother from another mother, thank you
Oh.
so much. When I reached out to you, I don't know whether I explained to you, I was doing a research on Black maternal mental health, race, culture, equity, and the stuff for my webinar series that I did on health. So, as a person with a background in healthcare and looking at the intersect of race and health,
Mm.
Googled you up and it's like, oh, okay, interesting. Because you were speaking a language that we often don't speak, and you were giving the avenue or the space for people to tell their stories of impact. And these are some of the things we don't often pay attention to. But for me personally, the personal story is important in looking at the global outlook. My story, your story together, when it comes together, creates a Ghana story. And the Ghana story creates a West African story. And the West African story or West African stories create an African narrative.
Yeah.
And the African narratives create a diaspora and world narrative.
Okay.
I better go. I don't be professor. You are the professor.
Connecting all the dots here. Let me get my map out. Yes. No, yes, absolutely.
So every story, no matter how small or big, is relevant in the puzzle that we call life and its journey, right?
Yep.
So that is like, oh, he's Ghanaian. He teaches theater. He does this. He does this. It's like, I would love to speak to this man because what he's doing is really powerful. And I'm not sure that many of our people, Ghanaians, or Africans, West Africans, are very much aware of what you're doing where you are in theater and in film.
Thank you. I know you're right. I'm basking in the glory of everything you're saying. No, honestly, thank you so much for bringing it up. I'll say that video for me was an affirmation of everything that you just said. That oftentimes I remember, there's a statistic that I learned in the American healthcare system. When you go, by the time a doctor sees a patient, that patient has seen 6 to 8 different people before they got to their doctor, right? And so by the time they've taken their blood pressure, what do you think their blood pressure look like?
It's high.
Yeah, right? So what does that mean? That they've met the security guard, they've met the parking attendant, they've met the receptionist at the bottom of the stairs, they've gone to the elevator, and then they have to check in, and then they've talked to the nurse. That's 5 people before you even say, you see your doctor, right? And so imagine now if you put on the culture that we wear so proudly, right? And you speak multiple languages, and you get a form and it only has English, right? And it's asking you all kinds of questions about the history and this, that, and the other. We're an oral traditional folk, right? Our history is in our language, the way that we move through space and time. So just that statistic when I did the videos, it brought me to the Hmong people in Minnesota. It brought me to the Somali people. It brought me to so Scandinavian people, and I realized there's more similarities than there are differences, right?
There
And
are.
so it was important for me to not only host it just so I could do the talking and but also let them talk.
Yes.
How often do we get to hear, oh, you talk about, high mortality rate for women, especially
Yes.
Black women in America? That's a crisis that that's not been addressed.
Yes.
And we find that those things, the intersection of healthcare practices and the ignorance of the system
Yes. Yes.
is costing us lives and it's costing us our future. So I didn't want to come on, that series of videos with a very dark and somber because we're Ghanaians.
Yes.
We're eternally optimistic, but we're realists, right? And so that it was an honor to do those videos. But you're right, I do many other things as well.
So on that note, I got it. I don't think I got your bio from you, but I found a bio of yours on Woke,
Okay, yeah, the Wool Coach, sure.
the Woke coach. So
Hmm.
guys, guys, this format of the podcast has changed. I had a set section that I was going through, but it's changed. So I'm going to read your bio to the audience, and then, oh, why did you give me that face?
I'm just humble that way. It's just very shocking when I hear. I'm not used to being read back to. I'm used to always. I'm not used to
Oh,
this.
because today you are in the hot seat. So Ansa Akyea
Hey,
is that he says his pronouns are he, him, his. I'm not even going to say anything. Now America we did.
exactly.
Is the lead facilitator and coach at Woke Coach T. Are you still there?
No longer. Now I'm at the University of Binghamton in New York.
Pronounce it that again.
University of Binghamton.
Binghamton.
Yeah, New York, upstate New York.
Upstate New York. Oh, okay. So Ansa holds an MA's in African American World Studies, a MFA, Masters of Fine Arts from the University of Iowa, and is a qualified administrator for the IDI Intercultural Development Inventory Assessment. Are you still there?
Yes.
Okay. He is also a member of the AEA and SAG AFTRA Actors Union with over 22 years of professional stage and screen experience. Okay, let me continue. I better go.
Hey.
This particular podcast is called Sitting Room Conversation, Artists in the Arts and Business and Educational Settings, working at the intersection of social justice, race and culture, and add health to it. Health justice, because that's how I found you.
Yeah.
But right now you are a full-term, you're a professor at the university you mentioned.
Yeah, Binghamton in New York, upstate New York.
Binghamton. That brofo is too much for my tongue. Pardon me, I beg.
No problem.
Well, is there anything that I missed?
No, that's it. I will leave it there. You did it absolute beautiful justice.
They wrote it, I read it.
Hey.
My brother, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, my sister.
It's absolutely amazing.
Long overdue. Long overdue. Hey. Come see something.
Come see something. Did I ever tell you? No, I didn't, because we're just talking. Look at us talking like we've known each other for so long.
Right.
When I was in then Ghana, they would say class 5. I used to be in drama class. Thank you.
Yeah.
I used to be in drama class, and I remember one of the productions we were doing was I think Christopher Columbus and Queen Isabella, before he set out to discover, quote unquote, discover the Americas. So I think I don't know which part I played, but whether I played Christopher Columbus or who, and I better go.
Thespian.
It's like I'm trying to remember the lines. It's been really, really long. When I realized I was going to interview you, it's like, it came to mind. It's something. Yeah, my lady, the good Lord has whatever.
Wow.
And it's speaking that and being on stage and doing. We performed it, but it's been so long, so long.
But the fact that you recall it so sharply, I mean, really, it's a testament to your ability and also the power of the arts. I mean, wow.
And then a couple of years later, I doubled in how do you call it, play.
Yep.
So I wrote a play, Aquile, which was produced and directed, which I produced, but it was directed by Oswald and
Hmm.
done in Ghana.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So you're a playwright. You're an actor. A
Oh no,
business
actor does not pass. Comedian, I'll take that.
comedian. Okay. All right.
I call it shenanigans.
Shenanigans. I was going to
Yes.
put you in a class of the F. West Sutherlands of the world, and no, you.
Oh my goodness. Thank you. I appreciate
No,
it.
at
I
least.
I I have had a few people tell me that, but I don't feel like I am there yet.
Really.
Yes.
Yeah. No. You. You.
I
You.
I
You said we
have a
feel. You. You have the energy of a performer.
yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I take it everywhere with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that it's easy to talk about difficult subjects when you have humor
Mm-hmm.
with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I easily navigate around race and
Yeah.
say sexual orientation because the humor comes with it.
Yeah.
And I do respect people's opinions of who they are. It is them.
Mm-hmm.
But as like me from the village where I come from,
Mm-hmm.
that will not fly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes. What
Mm-hmm.
is done here should not be imposed there.
That's that part.
Then we will go into a historical narrative of where I'm coming from,
Yeah.
where my people are coming from, and why it is the way it is.
Exactly.
Is culture changing? Yes. Culture can change for the best and for the worst.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's up to us as human beings what culture we want to create.
Yeah. 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 No, that's exactly right. I mean, the thing that is sitting with me as you're talking is that talks then the connection about tradition. It talks about rituals, right? And even though we are in a different culture, doesn't mean we don't bring our traditions and our ways of being in America or in Canada or wherever you are in the world. And you're absolutely right. Then underneath that, there's also respect, right? So because I'm here, doesn't mean all of a sudden I start grabbing everything with my left hand, right?
Yes.
I have to respect you from the way that I've learned. Now we can have a conversation so you can understand why I do things the way I do,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And I then have the choice.
Yes.
Well, if I want to change it, but at least there's an understanding and there's respect there.
Yes.
And I think as you're talking, that's what kept coming up in my mind. I'm like, I think when you write about humor and all those things, people want to be seen. When you make somebody
Yes.
laugh, it makes them feel like,
Yes.
oh, this person gets me, and you have that talent and ability. Or I could tell. I was like, oh yeah, I could just listen to you all day. I was like, huh.
Oh my goodness. You too? Lord have mercy. Oh goodness. If the theater, I saw a clip of a Christmas story
Yeah.
online. It's like, oh, and it's like I need to see you full in stage.
Oh.
Is there any production at any point in time coming to this part of our world?
That is, I will say yes. I do not know how God is going to make it happen because right now I'm in the academic, teaching the students, but I've been given an opportunity to direct, and that seems to be kind of the calling that's on my heart right now, where I get to be behind and support new voices and new actors and things like that, new playwrights. I'm sitting on the board right now of a great organization called the Playwright Center in Minnesota, and their whole, and that's why when you said playwright, I was like, oh, you should send it our way so we can maybe look at it. We'll exchange information.
Amen. You
Yeah.
just spoke my language.
Yeah.
Yay.
Listen, if we don't network, how are we going to keep moving forward? That's the thing
That's
I'm
true.
learning. So to answer your question, yes, I'm still an actor. I still do voiceovers and I still perform, but right now a lot of it is teaching in the classroom at Binghamton, which I'm very, very thankful for. But yeah, it's still there. It's still there. So
I think I was looking at your ratings and it was really, really
oh my
high for I
Sure.
have to come correct.
60 minutes. This is 60 minutes. You're like Mike Wallace or Oprah Winfrey. You do your research, you bring all the receipts, as the kids say. Okay, I'm listening.
Hey, that is huge accolade, though. Thank you. I see your ratings very high, and there were some top stuff they were listening that you are caring, you are attentive, you are insightful, A whole lot of them. Where did I write these? I was taking notes.
I'm flabbergasted. That's the big college
Eh,
word. But
uh,
I have smart students. I think
mhm.
I, they have no reason to tell stories. I think in my classroom, if I can say this about me, I'm trying to do what I learned at home, right? The way that my
The
parents.
please and thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Please and thank you. I'm trying to teach my students it's okay to say please. It's okay to say thank
Yes.
you.
Yes.
You're never too old to say please. You're never so old to say thank you. And
That is right.
if I don't teach them that in my classroom, then they're going to go out into the world and expect people to say, "Oh yeah, you should get some kind of respect or some." No one's going to give you anything. But the first thing you have to do is set the tone for how respect looks like. And if you can say please, you can say thank you. That'll open so many more doors for you. And it's those little things I think in my classroom that we do a lot of work around. How are you coming to the classroom? What are you bringing? Right? Because you don't expect the teacher to give you everything. You have to also do the work. So, you know,
I preceptor nursing students the last period that they're
mm,
about to be done, the 12 weeks or so.
wow.
And what I do find personally is that when you ask them what are your values, what are your core values,
Oof, oof, oof.
they look at you like deers in headlights because they've
Preach.
never been asked before.
Yeah.
And even my colleagues have never been asked those questions before. So they don't know. Now I could say some of them know because
Yeah.
they've worked with me long enough to hear me speak about that,
Yeah.
to tell them to Google it up and
I love
find
it.
it and
Yes.
find which ones speak to them and live by those values.
Yeah.
In this generation, it is not taught.
Yeah.
And please and thank you are so simple. It is not taught.
Yeah.
So you do find that sometimes I get somebody call on the phone looking for
Mm.
information and they just go.
Go. Yep.
And I'll let you go. And then I ask you, so who are you?
Mm.
I don't know you.
Mm.
You assume I know you. I don't know you.
Mm-hmm.
But when I pick the phone, I introduce myself, where you've called, and
Mm.
how may I help you?
Mm. Mm.
So, yes, I will school you back to the
Mm-hmm.
basics, start
Mm-hmm.
from the top. So, everything you told me, I cancel it.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to answer me one by one by one.
Mm-hmm.
If you
Mm-hmm.
get upset, as they say, now that one, now your own problem.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Yes. Courtesy is
Yep.
not there.
Yep.
Simple values, what I call simple values. That led me to say that I'm actually going to do a webinar on soft skills, quote unquote soft skills,
Mm.
but they ain't soft.
That's right.
We don't have them.
Yep.
So it's sad that they'll come and then you got to teach them what we would have said charity begins at home.
At home. They've been failed somewhere along the line,
They
and
have
and
been.
again, I understand the nature of work and parenting make it challenging to raise kids in this environment. But if they're not getting it from home and they're not getting it from primary or secondary school, by the time they come to university and they're young and they're fully formed in their minds, but their hearts are underdeveloped, what do you think is going to happen to them?
The question is, even the teachers, did they receive that charity begins at home? For you to have that expectation
Yeah,
that they are going to teach your
yeah,
children,
yeah, yeah,
they don't.
yeah, yeah.
Teachers teach if they have experience,
Mm,
both academically as they taught to teach, plus life experiences that broaden them.
that's right.
I
That's
always
right.
say I am who I am because number one, I'm very curious. I love to listen to people's stories
Yeah.
because one of my first degrees, minors, was in anthropology of health,
Wow. Oof. That's a.
and
Ooh, we could talk
yes,
about that. The history of the anthropology of men. Ooh, there's a history there. But continue. Please continue. I apologize.
no, that's perfectly fine. So that gives me the leverage to
Mm,
ask, to listen, and
yeah.
to dig through. For instance, somebody may come and will be feeling, having preterm labor,
Mm,
32 weeks. You look at the surface, it's like, okay, it started at this time and it's been going and it's getting worse. But sit down with a girl and ask, okay, so what is going on? Talk to
yeah.
me, break it down.
Yeah.
It's man problem. Baby daddy problem.
Mm.
And so this one, do you want good advice or bad advice?
Yeah.
The one I gave, she's a Jamaican woman. That
Mm.
baby father is Nigerian. So I said,
Mm-hmm.
do you want good advice or bad advice? I gave her the good advice, and then the bad advice is not good for this conversation
I hear
out
you.
there. But I gave her some tricks on how to get to the ego of a man,
There you go.
especially that kind of man.
That's
He
right.
said, "My sister, I should have met you first. I wouldn't be here."
But Nana, what a blessing you are to be in your in alignment with your calling, right? Like you could, again, we've just met, but under any circumstances, you could have been in a different, a Fortune 500 doing XYZ and this, that, and the other. You're not. You're in alignment with what you're supposed to do. Your purpose, your destiny is right, is happening, right? And so I'm reminded as you're talking again, like oftentimes people are fortunate to run into the nanas of the world where they get good, they have a choice, right? And what I love about what you're saying, that even in your job, you make them feel seen, that they have a choice, they have agency, that
Yes.
they can engage with you in a way that says, okay, how do I want to do this? But if I just come and tell you, do this, take this medicine, be quiet, I'm just going to go back and repeat the cycle until it either kills me or I learn something different. And wouldn't it be nice to not to have to suffer to learn something different? I'm not saying don't work hard. I'm not saying admit and whatever you need to do. But as you're talking, I'm constantly reminded that even as an actor, the number one thing that I learned from my mentor was failure is growth.
Yes.
You have to fail and then you kind of say, okay, what did I learn? How can I, if I do it again, if I say this line this way, if I move my body that way, if I okay, right? But we have, and this is where we go back to the parenting. As parents, we have, I understand this because I'm also a parent, but I have to make my kids okay with failing, both in my life and in my classroom, right? Because you're not going to learn by making me happy. You're going to learn when you figure it out.
Let me tell you the story of my son.
Mm,
Last year September he went to college. I
congratulations.
asked him, Nanaya, have you done your work? Have you sent it? Yes, yes. But as mothers, we are known to talk a lot, to
Really?
be on your case.
Really?
And then he did a fantastic job of
Mm,
failing.
mm,
And then he realized he held his heart
yeah,
like he was having a heart attack. He let me down because I
yeah,
paid his school fees.
yeah,
He let himself down.
yeah.
So now the question is, what do you want to do?
There you go. What do you want to do?
What do you want to do? Go to school or get a job?
Yeah.
He said he wanted to go to school. So I said, okay, then how are we going to move forward?
Oof.
I paid the second school fees. We started from, I guided him, we started again, and he went. But now we have a mama and son agreement that he is going to pay me back
There you go.
all the monies I'm investing in him.
Yeah.
As I'm speaking to you, the last time I looked at his work, now he's putting in the work
Mm-hmm.
and he is in the A's. So if he hadn't failed
Yeah.
and sat in the C's, he'll say, I'm
Yeah.
okay. But now it's 86 and above.
Yeah.
Because he does it, he dedicates the time to do it, and he gets it done and submits it.
That's right.
So it wasn't, how do you call it? I as a Ghanaian parent,
Yeah.
I really, really had to bite my tongue
That's right.
not to go after him.
That's right.
And also realize that psychologically, if I go that way, what story am I trying to tell him in terms of growth?
Mm-hmm.
So how do I present it to him that he gives me the answers
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to the future he wants to write for himself?
Oof. That's a t-shirt right there.
Oh my goodness.
What you just said right there, that's a t-shirt. But it's profound. Our kids, how do they learn? And I lived in Minnesota for a long time and I still live there, and that's where George Floyd happened. And what were
Yes.
his last words when Derek Chauvin had his knee on his neck? He cried out for his mother.
He cried
Right?
out for his mother.
What does that tell us? If our
Yes.
mothers are right, we come from our mothers or we go through our mothers, some say, that is a connection. If we don't learn it from our mothers, sons, daughters, husbands, where do we get it from? So I love the fact that you said you had to bite your tongue, but look at the power that did in terms of making him change, right? And the growth that is happening. But you're absolutely right, because we want to, even as parents, and you talked about getting parents. My mother used to be a teacher. My father worked in UNICEF and healthcare services. Uh, Education, number one, right? So I knew growing up, and I'm the youngest, so I have a sister, a brother, and then it's me. I saw my sister go to law school. I saw my brother,
Yes.
computer, and then me, I was in the arts. So, they were like,
I was going to come to that.
yeah,
I was going to come to that you escaped because you're the last one.
that's right. That's right. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
you escaped because typical African parents, lawyer, doctor, engineer, anything that is concrete
That's right.
is where you are driven to. So with that mindset, when I was leaving junior secondary school to go to senior secondary school,
Mm,
I wanted to read English literature, and French.
really?
But I ended up being a science student because they didn't offer what I wanted. And
Oh,
I have come to the realization that my brains are, you dare me, and I'm going to do that.
yeah. You're like, that's your person. Yeah.
That's
You
my
say no.
personality.
Okay, I'll show you.
I'll show you.
Yeah.
At this age, I have come to accept that. So, oh yeah, let's go. Yes.
At this age, what, 34?
Thank you. I love you too. 48.
Hey,
I have aged like
black,
fine wine.
black fine wine.
See, I'm shining. Don't make me start acting for you.
Please, you've already got the
So,
part.
thank you. I've not even gone through any of the questions that I'm supposed to
Oh,
ask.
all right.
No, I love it because these are all conversations that need to be had.
Yeah.
But finish telling us your Davido story. How you bypassed into the arts,
The
because
arts, yeah.
Ghanaian parents and you going into art.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, I'll tell you, I met when I was in college. So we were living in Iowa at the time, and I was doing my undergraduate studies, and there was a visiting professor by the name of Amadou Madi from Sierra Leone. He's a
Amadou Made.
He was a Sierra Leonean playwright. He had done some BBC radio plays and things like that. And he came to spend a semester as a visiting professor at the University of Iowa in the African Studies department. And then
Is he still alive? Sorry.
no, he passed away.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he passed away. But when he was with us, he was one of the first people that I met who was talking about total theater. No idea what
Total theater.
total
Oh.
theater. And he was actually one of the first people who wrote the story of the Amistad.
Oh.
This is before the movie, before all
Yes.
of that. He had a story about Joseph Cinque, Sengbe Pierre, who now we know as what Steven Spielberg did with the movie. But at the time, we did the Amistad at the University of Iowa, and that was my first play. And I played Joseph Cinque, Sengbe Pierre. And so I spent so much time around him, learning the line, learning, the chants, learning stage, learning the technical aspects of performing. But I was very green. I did not know, what I know now. But he became my mentor, and in many ways, kind of my introduction into performing. And then he went to my parents and he asked them before we started the play, he said, "Can I have very African?" He asked my parents, "Do I have permission to bring your son into my production so he can do this play?" And then my parents said yes. And that was really the beginning of me being into the arts. Had it not been for him asking, again, tradition, right?
Yes.
Asking my parents permission, maybe I would have gone around back and done a class here and done, right, and messed around, but I would not have been on this track with such clarity and such purpose. And also, God willing, I think it's my calling. This is my
Yes.
ministry, right?
Yes.
Because I look at you and I feel like you're in your purpose. You know that God has put you in this position for a reason, right? So that's the other part of it, that my faith life is also informing the way that, okay, my parents said yes, my family's behind me. God is opening doors and putting people in position to give me favor and challenge me, and then I'm living life. So that's how I ended up, getting my MFA. And then after that, I moved to Chicago, and I started working in the theater there in Chicago. And then I got an agent,
Mm-hmm.
and I joined the unions.
Yeah.
This is because here's the thing: if you don't see the mountaintop, sometimes you just focus on the mountain, and you're like, "Where do I go? What do I do?"
Where do I go? Yes.
Yeah. So I had when I was in college, I saw some actors came in. They were like, "Oh, we're in the union." They had
Mm-hmm.
cars. They gave them hotels. I was, "Oh,
Oh.
little a poor student." I was, "Oh, one day I want to have a car. I want to have a hotel. I can go and just act." But that was they told me, "Well, you have to be part of the union." So when
Mm.
I graduated, I was like, "I'm gonna go get my equity card. I'm gonna be part of SAG-AFTRA, which is for film.
Mm-hmm.
Equity is like Actors Equity, which is for theater." But what that means is you then are on the track to work in particular houses, and you get a certain amount of money, right? And like it's all much more regulated in
Mm-hmm.
industry wise, and that gave me a lot of access because now again I had more clarity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so then I got the agent, and then I started working, and then I went to Minnesota, and then I started kept working, and it just kept going, and so now I'm in a position where 25 plus years of performing. I'm still in my calling, but now we'll see. I'm just transitioning.
Transitioning.
Mm,
It's amazing. Whilst you were speaking, you talked about purpose, and for some of us, it took us quite a while to find what it
mm,
is. And I think it was there, but it's really coming to the realization and settling that this is
mm.
it. But also, so for somebody like me with so many, the way my brain works, like
Yeah.
I picked up painting this year, literally.
Oh my God.
I didn't paint that, I bought it.
Okay.
But I my son told me I do abstract painting. I said, okay.
Mm,
But for me, it was therapeutic. But I'm actually looking at some right now, and it's
mm-hmm.
like you're learning. It comes, for lack of a better word, spiritually.
Yeah.
You changing, and sometimes I love to crack myself up. So I realized that somebody asked me one time at work, "Are you a comedian, a patient?" And
Mm,
it's like, no. It's like, you sound more like a comedian. I said, okay.
mm,
Somebody has zoned in on me that, are you a
mm-hmm.
poet? Because I was serenading her with some lines. And it's like, are you a poet? I said, you can never tell. You
Mm,
may be, having a conversation with a
mm-hmm.
poet. It's
Mm-hmm.
up to you to find out. And somebody has asked, are you a counselor motivator? It's like everybody's
Wow.
asking everything and
Yeah.
anything. But
Yeah.
I've come to the realization that these are gifts
Yes. Yes.
I've been blessed with. That irrespective of who you are, as in your so-called station in life,
Mm-hmm.
you're a human being with a
Come on.
human story.
You better preach. You better preach. You better preach.
So that is how I have been able to sit in my purpose and walk in my
Mm,
purpose and talk in my purpose and be perfectly fine
yeah.
as Nana Yaya Boy.
Hey.
I beg, free me. Who is doing the interview? Let's talk about theater because, guys, you've been watching the Nana Yaya Boa podcast between myself and Ansa Akyea, who
Hey.
is a renowned
Oh,
professor,
thank you.
actor, director, and many more.
Thank you.
But it seems that he is bringing aspects of me that is like normally don't come out in podcasts. They kind of come out a wee bit, but I keep
Mm.
it in check. But when the actor in me meets the director in him, then we got to
Yeah.
come.
That's
Okay.
it. There we go. It's all love. I told you I've been watching your stuff, and your energy is we are simpatico, right? We're
Yes.
just in the flow of it's a good
Yes.
time. So thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. This is so good. It's
Thank you.
yeah, my heart and my spirit are yeah, I'm where I need to be right now.
If they are not in the alignment, I'll juju you. Don't come
Hey,
between me.
I beg. Well, no wahala. I don't want wahala here.
So
Yeah,
we've been telling our stories, sharing our stories, but
yeah,
let's get to the core of it,
sure.
on what you do as in storytelling and theater,
Yeah,
right? Because sometimes as Africans, we really don't think in depthly about theater.
yeah.
For me being here in Canada, I'm now seeing that a few black productions are coming out, but
Mm-hmm,
it's not much
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
productions coming out. And looking at you being in the Midwest, Minnesota,
mm-hmm.
and the work you do, from your experience, for instance, what elements make a story truly impactful and resonate with audiences from all
Oh,
walks of life?
that is such a beautiful question. I will say the more specific the story is, the more universal it is, right?
Mm,
The more you tell the Nana story, somebody who is, I don't know, in Asia, somebody who is in Australia can listen or see and feel it, and it touches something in their humanity that they're like, I don't know what that is, but I recognize it, right? And so it has to be specific. And this is where we get into representation, right?
mm,
And so when I came out of my MFA program and I started doing a lot of theater, I was looking for new playwrights, because I didn't want to be guard number three in the Shakespeare play holding, right? And that's okay if that's where you start. But I had different aspirations because I was exposed very early on to the stories. You know, we all grew up with
oh,
Anansi
oh,
stories. Oh, go ahead.
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
No, no,
short,
please go.
you mentioned Shakespeare.
Yeah.
I read somewhere that Shakespeare was African.
Aren't we all? Yeah, but yeah, there is mounting evidence right now that they are saying in the lineage of Shakespeare's family that there is evidence that he has some links to Africans. Now, I don't know how true that is because at the same time that he was writing Marlowe, who is his counterpart, was also writing. And we don't know if people have beef. Like we look at Kendrick and Drake,
Mm,
right? So we don't know if
mm,
the same way that there's anti-blackness, we don't know if they were saying that because they're X, Y, Z. We don't know. But for him to write
okay.
a story like The Merchant of Venice, which deals with the Jewish kind of influence, or he talks about the Moors when he's talking about
Yes.
Othello,
Yes.
there's something there, right? You don't write those plays without an insight about what that is.
Exactly. Because I was reading this lady's book on the Moors before slavery,
Right.
and the Tudors, the Black Tudors.
Okay.
The
Yep.
Yes. And so when I saw that, I was trying to figure out, it's like the time period where all this happened, and how did the Moors get into his play,
That's
and
right.
why is it relevant?
That's right. That's
I'm
right.
sorry.
No, no, no. Don't be sorry. I think it's all connected. I mean,
Hmm.
um, I think because white society has elevated Shakespeare to a point where it's in a little bit in an ivory tower. But what we're talking about is bringing it into a place of like, well, how is he like us? And we see evidence that he might be more like us than what they want him to be, which is, pristine and everyone is in suit, right? No, when you think about the way that they performed Shakespeare back in the day, they had what they call the groundlings, which is they literally performed to the people,
Hmm.
right? They were funded by people who were rich, which is why Shakespeare ended up writing plays about, kings and queens, and
Hmm.
because he had to get the money. Right. So, but if we're real practical about it, so when I started studying, theater, yeah, I did Shakespeare and I still do Shakespeare, but
Hmm.
it's not all of my cultural identity, right? And so I have questions about Shakespeare. But then I look at someone like an August Wilson, right? You saw and Netflix has the piano lesson and Miss Evers. No, not Miss Evers' Boys. The piano lesson, and there's another play that's on Netflix with Viola Davis, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, right?
Oh, yeah.
Those are two plays that I highly recommend that anybody should watch because the reality is, again, and I mean in the diaspora, you talked about diaspora,
Hmm.
wherever there's an evidence of Black people, our oral traditions always rise to the top. We always talk about our ancestors. We always talk about our rituals. We always talk about our cultural practices that keep us connected to each
Yes.
other and to the
Yes.
world, right?
Yes.
And so that is one thing that I've learned doing theater, that no matter whether I'm doing a French play, Molière, or if I'm doing Shakespeare, if I'm doing August Wilson, those writers are
Hmm.
asking me to tap into that,
Mm.
right? And I will say it has been my experience that when Black playwrights, Black actors, Black creatives like yourself, when we tap into that, everybody benefits. So the idea that we're not represented in those spaces more consistently, not supported more consistently, that in the healthcare industry, we're not overrepresented in terms of people like yourself, Nana, with authority and power and can teach, that means that we all lose out. Right. And so when in America, when we're having this conversation about DEIA and all this kind of stuff, what they're saying is we want people to lose out on their humanity. It just so happens that I'm Black and I get it and I understand it. And I'm trying to help you, actually.
You
Because
bring
if
soul.
yeah, bring exactly, right? And so when I used to go out and audition in the beginning of my career, I didn't let it bother me. If I saw what we call a breakdown, right? Where they tell you this is a male, he's between 25 and 40, and right, race. I never looked at race. I just saw the part. I was like, let me do it. Don't put limitations on my abilities,
Yeah.
right? God didn't create me and say, okay, that's as much as I want to bless you. That's not how it works, right? And so why
Don't
should
bottle me up. Put me in
yeah,
a bottle. Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
And so for me, it was always important that even in the theater, I took those limitations off of myself. They were never going to validate me. That was never going to happen, right? And so I never looked for that. I always said, well, if it doesn't work here, I'll just take my little things and let me go over here and okay. And that's what I learned. Okay.
No, it's so true that number one, I understood where I was coming from as a Ghanaian,
There you go.
what my family history was. So I started with the narratives of where my father's people, who are Ashantis, come from, but through oral narratives, I realized that we are not even purely Ashantis, we are Denchira. Because my grandmother, my father is in the 90s, my grandmother came from the Denchira area during one of the wars with the brothers and settled where the family is now. So when you hear
Wow.
Denchira, I was told there's some family part there in the Denchira area, but I don't know who and I don't know where because I
Right.
stopped tracing.
Got it. That
With
is
my
so important. That's so powerful what you just said.
Yes.
So I
It's
just want,
through
yeah.
oral narratives that I even found where my father's village itself was and the house because it's been described. And the next village where his father was from. And the name to go ask of my relatives and introduce myself as Nana Yayeboa, Efia Yeboa's grandchild by his son, Kofi Dua,
Hey,
who lives in Canada.
that's your passport.
Yeah.
All that is oral tradition passport, right? I mean,
Yeah.
what a powerful testimony that is. You know, sometimes people say, "Oh, what's your name?" I had a doctor's appointment today, just need my first primary in this area, and he said, "Oh, what?" I said Ansa, and he said, "Oh, Ansa." I was like, "It's Ansa." He was like, "Oh," I said, "My whole name is Ansa Mauli Kobla Achia."
Oh,
But
Mauli.
yeah, you see,
God is here. God is here.
God
God
is here.
is here.
They don't know. That's what I'm like. Right, I'll wait. Yeah, but you see, you
Yes.
get it. That's my passport, and I love your testimony because it just is a reminder that you never know who you're meeting until you connect, right? And the fact that you can say, Nana Yeboah, like that is so powerful, right? And what a gift it is for us to be able to say, I know where I'm from, and I know who I am, and I'm in alignment. Yeah, no one can take those things away from you, right? And so when we live in this society where things are seemingly being taken out, and one of the things I grew up with, my parents before they moved to the States, because it was not my choice to come to America, was they made it really clear. It's like African Americans have suffered a very great deal, but they're just like us. Ghana has had periods where we had to go through colonialism, post-colonialism, and our version of yeah,
Yeah.
right. Americans, Black Africans are native to America, right? Black Americans, they're the only people who have had to live with their oppressors and still have never gotten any kind of recognition. They don't have a country necessarily. They don't have necessarily even the rights that they've gotten is 1958, right? It just happened. So they are at the forefront of what we have experienced. And the fact that we know our history, why would we not also help while we're here, right? So
I am so glad that you spoke on that because that is one of the powers of storytelling that I use to bridge
Hmm.
the African in the diaspora and the African on the continent. In a sense that we often forget that these are, for instance, my family or your family members taken and dispersed.
Oof.
And at a point in time, when I finish with distant cousins, I will make you read it.
Please, please.
It's dispersed across. And so if part of your family ended up in, say, in the US,
Hmm.
in Jamaica, in Trinidad and Barbados, or in Haiti,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you see somebody and they look like, oh, this looks like an uncle, this looks like a cousin. Do you know whether it's a distant cousin, three,
Mm.
4, 5, 6, how many generations removed?
Mm-hmm.
So our story as Africans does not begin, as African Americans, does not begin with the transatlantic slave trade,
That's
but
right.
it's rooted within the African family
That's
that
right.
was broken apart.
Yep. Yep. Ooh, you're preaching today. You are preaching. You better go. You better go. You better go. If this was one of those Pentecostal shouting church, listen. But you're speaking truth, right? That's it.
Oh, let me come back to you. If you could believe it, we've only done 3 of the questions that I have
Oh my God.
outlined.
Oh my God. Okay, well,
So
I
in all
apologize.
your memorable career,
Yeah.
okay, I want you to share, say, a particular experience on or behind us, the scenes that left a lasting impact on you.
Oh, okay. One. Okay. If I have to choose one.
Yeah.
Um, okay. I'll pick a fun one. I played a wrestler in a
Hey,
play. Yeah, I played a wrestler, like very much like WWE and Hulk
yes.
Hogan. Yeah. And that was the most fun I ever had because those characters they're not real. They're
Yes.
so they're full of ego, they're full of,
Mm-hmm.
all about the body and what they can do and who they but that play, it was called uh it's called the character was Chad Deity in the Resistible Rise of Chad Deity, and I did it in Minnesota, and we had to learn all these fights and all these things, and but that was the most physically kind of fun play that I ever did. And
Mm,
the audience was in it, and it felt like a show, right? And so those are the moments where I feel like it's entertainment
yes.
and at its best. It's just fun. Hmm.
Excellent. Thank you. I think that my next question, we've kind of talked about it a little bit, but let
Mm,
me ask it and let's concretize it,
sure.
right? So, as a creative in both African and Western theater spaces,
Mm.
no, as an African in Western theater spaces, what unique challenges have you faced and how have you navigated them? Yeah.
Ooh. Um, I mean, I don't want to use it in this way, but I'll say in a couple of ways. I'll say white supremacy in the sense that people don't have, you would think in a creative medium, people have curiosity and an interest. They don't. They want what they want the way that they think it should be.
Mm,
And so that has been a constant for me to always remember who I am and the way that I show up is enough. I don't
mhm,
have to prove anything to anyone. But at the same time, I think I share some of what you said about your personality. I'll show you. Okay. Ghanaians were very accommodating, very warm, but there's a piece of us. Once it's on, we're like Nigerians that way.
It's funny that you say that. I've gotten quite a few instances that Ghanaians don't think I'm Ghanaian and Nigerians don't think I'm Ghanaian. They think I'm more Nigerian than Ghanaian because, as they say, your blood hot too much.
That's right.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And I think I'm pretty calm, but apparently I'm a tough cookie to deal with.
Oh, I can imagine.
I don't think so. I beg to differ. Um,
Denial is not just a river in Egypt. Yes. Okay, we'll play nice.
I think I'm just very clear and straightforward, which some
Yeah,
people don't like sometimes.
I agree with you. I agree,
And
and
so no.
it's very interesting. People are very fragile when you tell them the truth, or you tell them things that they know they need to hear. And it's not I didn't buy that baggage. It's up to you to figure that out, right? So sorry, I will answer that. So I would say white supremacy in the theater and the way that people are limited in creativity. And I think the other challenge for me is I think I there's just not enough. How do I say this? I have to be the change in terms of making black spaces, Ghanaian spaces, or diaspora spaces where
Spaces.
you know what I mean, where we can have comedy, we can have drama. We see Nollywood and we see Black Panther, but where creative space for people who write or like you, where you have
Yes.
ideas, you just want to play.
Yes.
And then we have, you know, the reality is we have a tradition, and so oftentimes we're willing to say, I don't, I want to do the thing that's shiny over there when you have everything you need. Giving ourselves the permission to have the audacity to dream bigger and to do things the way that feels good to us. You don't always have to try to translate or try to, well, let me explain. No, it is exactly what it is. You don't know on Ansa stories, well, you have to go use Google. I don't know what to tell you.
I'll just go to my website, or anytime I'm doing
See,
storytelling, it's Anansi storytelling.
see
I'm
how it's,
carrying over the tradition.
there you
So,
go.
and I'm loving it, and I love it.
Hmm.
I love telling Anansi stories.
Hmm.
I think February 17th, my birthday, I did a session on Zoom for my birthday. That was my gift to the world. Yes.
Oh,
The other
happy
part of my
birthday.
studio is actually that's where I sit and do the storytelling
Oh,
session.
happy belated birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. I feel it good.
Hey,
Hey,
I knew that I would
ah.
now. Hey,
So
come on.
good. So
So
good.
good.
Okay. Oh,
Okay.
oh,
All right.
oh, I
Yes.
forgot we're doing an interview. I don't think both of us
Woo.
should be on stage.
I think
I will not study the lines, and I might distract you from studying the lines, and we'll create
we'll
something
just laugh.
different.
Exactly.
We'll just go with the flow.
It's good. Oh,
So, um, let's go to this, like
okay.
diversity in the arts, and
Oof.
what is still missing when it comes to authentic African American, how do you call it, representation in
Yeah.
mainstream theater and cinema.
Yep. Representation in terms of artistic leadership, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So where are our artistic directors? Where are our stage managers, right, that look like us? Because you already said it. Oftentimes, um, whiteness in the culture looks like I don't have to say please and thank you. I can just tell you what to do and you do it.
Hmm.
That's not who we are, right? Inherently, and I think,
Sometimes that's what I am.
right. But you know what I
Okay,
mean?
so let me
Yeah.
quite. It has its place and time.
Exactly. It cannot be the only way, right? And
Hmm.
I agree with you. Absolutely. I need you sometimes to be, I mean, the best people that I know in terms of stage managers are people who
Hmm.
tell you exactly what you need to do. Like 5 minutes
Hmm.
means 5 minutes. It doesn't mean you have, whatever. So um, I think it's about representation in those positions of influence. We are very good at entertainment, but we're also very good at being lawyers and very good at being engineers and technicians. And I think those fields would benefit from representation as well, right? Um, it's just not enough for us to always be the singers or the dancers. It's just not enough. Um,
There are more roles to fulfill
yeah,
that gives credence and purpose to the stories we tell.
that's right. And
Thank you.
again, the better we do, everyone will benefit.
Yes, yes.
It's not a
And
zero-sum game.
that brings me to an Akan proverb. Driakrojin from Mebu. One tree. Oh, Driakrojin from Mebu means that if there's only one tree in a storm, it will
Hmm.
break or it will
Mm.
fall. Yeah, so you need a collection of trees in the forest to break the energy of the wind.
I love that.
Yes.
Look at that.
Yeah. Ooh,
Hey,
now you're bringing my proverbs out too.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Efo ansa,
Listen.
medekuku.
Oh, hey, look at the ever coming out. That's for you.
Oh my
Thank you.
goodness. Oh my
I feel
goodness.
so comfortable and at home with you. Thank you so much. You've made such a beautiful space. Thank you.
You are most welcome. You see, the intention was to be able to tell our stories by ourselves because
Hmm.
and that goes back to the African proverb that if the lion does not learn to tell its story, the hunt will forever glorify the hunter. And it really, when I listen to Komla Dumo of BBC, God bless his soul, do a TEDx talk, and I've watched that TEDx talk about 4 or 5 times. And when he said it, and he was telling the African, let the African tell the African story, it resonated so much with me that up to now, that is my anchor. I wish he was alive for me to have him on this podcast, because he made, and this is where I come in, the decisions people make in their lives that
Yeah.
have positive impact in
Yeah.
the world. His life story has impacted my life story without him even realizing how profound it has been.
Yeah. Yeah.
My going into say still doing Anansi storytelling was impacted by Mame Dokno, by the fireside in Ghana. But behind by the fireside in Ghana is also Rawlins's, the late President Rawlins,
Yep. Yep.
his wife, chairing the 31st December Women's Movement and investing in this particular program. Our lives are like the spider's web, and time.
You're all connected, yeah.
We are all connected via stories until I start telling my story and untangling the woven aspects, like you've woven Kente, and you start unweaving it, you will not see where it is.
Oof.
Mempesa.
We're just gonna let that sit there. We're just gonna let that sit there. That's what they would say. We're just gonna leave. Ooh.
Okay.
Yeah, no, you're so right.
Because I think when we started, you said something about us, working together, being together, and linking together.
Yeah.
And this is what I always say: the reason and purpose that sometimes you see somebody, you meet somebody, you go through some pain or whatnot, you don't know until years later when you reflect.
Yeah.
And if you do introspection, you realize that this person came into your life because in a year or 2 years' time, you needed to do this.
Yeah.
And the gift of Ansa was given to you today.
Correct.
So that a year or 2 years' time, I can come and bug you. Hey, I have finished writing the script.
That's right.
Distant Cousins. What are we going to do?
Let's workshop this. Let's
workshop this.
Let's get a reading. Let's get a dramaturg. Let's figure out. Yeah. Let's put you in a room where we can get some actors and you can hear your words back to you.
Or we can redo Aquile.
Hey. With some jollof. Okay, that's fine.
No problem. You don't get problem. That one, there's no problem at all. We can go to Ghana and create and transform.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
Oh.
That's kind of where I'm heading. Part of why I went into this teaching situation is I want to be in a classroom, but also because I want to make connections back to Ghana. So there's I have some connections over with the National Theatre of Ghana. What I want to do is formalize a technical program where we can take technicians from America, right, to Ghana to look at the infrastructure, our lighting, our sound, our costume. Because oftentimes we think, let's get, the actors there. We're okay. The Ghanaians, we have enough stories and we have enough directors. We have enough actors. What we really need is how are we creating the infrastructure, right? The playwrights, the stage managers, the lighting designers, the sound designers, right? Those departments are crucial for theater. That's why people look at the arts and they think like it's all emotions and emoting. No. Somebody had to turn those lights on. Somebody had to figure out what costume looks good under that light. Somebody has to close the curtain. Somebody has to design the stage, a proscenium versus a round. There is so much opportunity, and it does not have to cost us, a grant or anything like that. It just has to be, even if we start on Zoom, right? Let's say hypothetical. Let's say we take your play. Then we say, okay, we're going to workshop it first so that the playwright feels good about the product. Then we talk about a curriculum that we develop. How could this be made on a proscenium? How could this be made if it was going to be on a thrust? How could, Let the designers come up with ideas. What do you think about this playwright? Would you want to see a play like that? How could we do that? And then we go back to Ghana and we say, okay, so if we are in Accra, this is the way we're going to do it. If we go to, Peki, this is the way we're going to present it. If we go back to the village of your people, what is the dramaturgical evidence that we're going to present in the program for the people? Is it right? Is it a video? How do we do that? Is it on YouTube? There's so much opportunity in theater. You see,
You see, this libation I poured this morning is working.
I love that you said that because that's it. That's the way I think. I'm like, okay, well, how else could we make this connection work, right?
I I realized when I wrote the play and I gave it, unfortunately, I believe it could have been better,
Hmm.
but the director's attitude was even not the greatest. And
Right.
sometimes when we speak and we don't really think, so it killed a little bit of my spirit. But I didn't have a director, and because I'm not in Ghana when I'm producing it, when I went to sit and watch them, I was like, oh no,
Yeah.
you could say it this way, bring
Yeah.
it out this way. The way you're doing it is just killing the spirit.
Yeah.
And when I named the play Aquile,
Mm.
they also thought the director did not ask me. He thought that it was a twin because Aquile is
Yeah.
the name of a twin. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there was some stuff missing in translation on his part,
Mm.
and I wanted to do a table read to
Yeah.
get everybody. It wasn't done. So last minute, I'm listening to them, and it's like, no, the
Yeah.
flow is not there. It's don't just read.
Yeah.
When you read, how do you understand it? What are you bringing to it? I need
Yeah.
the emotions. I need you to feel it.
That's
If the
right.
word is not sounding good, cancel it. Give me another word.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. But you know what? The fact that you could
it was a
see
huge
those
lesson.
exactly. Nothing lost. I mean, I just don't believe energy comes back to you, right? And I think
Yes.
it's an opportunity for us to have a conversation because now that you're in the process, first of all, congratulations on having a script, right? Because I've been in rooms with playwrights, and that's okay, where they come in with maybe a paragraph. And then from there, we spend the time figuring out, well, what is the story? What do you want to say? But you already have a title, you already have a story, you've already been through an experience. Why not do a reboot?
Well, I'll tell you, this play started as a short story. And I teased it out into a script,
Hmm.
a play. And I was actually rewriting it into a film script.
Why not? Right?
So
No,
that's how my brain works.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean,
But I'd
that's the
love
way it
to
should be.
stage it again at the
Yeah.
Ghana, the theater and other
Hmm.
places within the universities and
Hmm.
everything, because I do believe it has a point to make about, it has a diaspora Ghana tie as
Hmm.
into relationships, and it has, friendships and bonds between
Mm,
teenagers and, teenage pregnancies as well.
mm,
But the core of the setting is in Jamestown.
mm.
Yes. It's in Jamestown,
Interesting.
Accra. Yes, yes.
Interesting.
And and because I used to do quite a few literary works, storytelling with the children around there,
Mm,
it's based on a young, maybe 14 or 15-year-old girl walking and swish swashing
mm,
there, and all these guys looking at her and, whistling. And I
mm.
remembered my teenage years. So the name came easily as
Yeah.
Aquile because it's one of those names, Aquile Suma. When they sing the song,
Mm,
people can easily
mm-hmm,
identify with amongst their
mm-hmm,
gangs in Accra. And
mm-hmm,
so it came easily, as you can tell, for lack of a better word, a ghetto story.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But you know what? I love that because how do I say this? The playwright needs to know, like, you're not trying to, how do I say this? It's source material. That's what I mean.
Mhm.
But do you know what I mean? When I say source material, it's semi-autobiographical because you're connected to the subject matter in a way that only you know what the sound
Mhm.
of that character is. You know what this,
Mhm.
right? But it's when you try to like, oh, okay, I need to find a popular song. Like then we can use AI. Like that's the difference between a play.
Oh,
You see?
you have gone into my next topic. Yeah, AI. I was about to ask you that.
AI can't do what you do.
AI can't do what you do, but
It,
how can we utilize
yeah,
AI
exactly. That's the question.
positively,
That's the question, right?
ethically
That's it.
in the creative industry
Yeah.
from
There's
your
a
perspective?
I mean, there was a writer strike not too long ago, and there was another union strike in the States for the
Hmm.
actors, and that was part of the negotiation that they did not want AI to take their jobs away, right? Meaning that, let's say I get cast and I give an audition or a performance, they capture it, and then they contractually own my likeness. They own my vote.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's the language that's coming up in contracts, which is why, you know, we can have a conversation about AI, but I love what you said. It has to be positive. It's got to be ethical. It's got, right. It has to have those things, or else if I just took your idea and I just typed it in AI and I came up with a script, it would not do what you just did, which is, oh, this is how I came up with the title. Oh, I was in Jamestown and I was telling AI cannot give me that, right? And I think unless we put the legal parameters in the contract, meaning like again, I'm going to use your script for example, where the playwright gets to write off, oh yes, you can do this much, or actually I want to see the draft, or I'm involved in the production up to this point, right? Then when we have those kind of constructive conversations, then AI can be useful, right? So I'm not opposed to AI, but I want some guardrails and parameters, because as we always so know, Africa as a continent has all the primary resources, but we always seems to be the last to benefit from it. How is that possible that we have the breadbasket of the world and yet we can't feed ourselves? Really? Are you serious? So technology is the same way. We should be right in the room, having these conversations, being at the table, and benefiting from it for our people and for our continent.
And that is the reason why presently almost every question I ask of my audience, I want to know their, view of AI.
Yeah.
And if it's not there, then it has to. Because as much as I'm in the creative industry, I realize that if I use Canva, there is AI. When I'm editing, there is AI, Gemini for Google, and all it's there.
It's there.
I'm not going to run out of it. Chat GTP. I've utilized AI for Anansi storytelling during my webinars by creating the images that goes with it. And I tell people these images were created AI. I did not draw them. I fed in the words, whatever that they call prompt engineering.
Right.
And this is what it spit out for me. For me, it made that aspect a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I pick and choose positively how it's going to enhance what I'm putting out there.
Absolutely. And that's the responsibility of the creator, right? And
Yes.
I think you're talking about ethics and you're talking about producing, because what's happened since the pandemic is this onslaught of technology has given us all the tools.
Yes.
Pandora's box is open. We're never going to put the genie back in the bottle. So we've got to work with what we've got. But I think what you're having a conversation about, which is exactly where we need to be, is what are the ethical and responsible ways of using it, right? And if you're saying, I'm using it to enhance, absolutely. Because as an audience member, part of me doesn't care. Part of me wants the story. I still want to be connected. I still tell, right? And that is where the future is, I think. So do I expect it to go away? No, I think it's going to be in theater as well. The only difference is, you can't really AI an actor yet in terms of live, right? You can't really AI a director. Maybe you can.
Background, images,
Maybe, yeah, But even
ideas
then,
about lighting.
yeah, it can be an assistant, right?
Yes,
So
it can be an assistant. That is
Yeah.
the right word. That
Yeah.
is the right word. And I do believe, personally, I do believe, irrespective of what you are, where you are, and what you do, have an idea of how AI will impact you.
Exactly.
Because even within the healthcare field, I was having a conversation with one of the doctors about AI in the healthcare field and documentation. And she made me realize that they are working on some form of technology, I've forgotten the name, that if you are having a conversation with the doctor, the nurse, the doctor, and the client, it pulls all these conversation and documents it. So whereas I'll document and forget some stuff, or the doctor will forget the
Yep.
medication that she said she was going to give or what the patient said, this documents all the conversation,
Yeah.
the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. And then the doctor can go through it. It's like, oh, okay, I said this, or the patient said this, we weren't, so something like that.
Yep.
Now, am I hesitant about it? Surely I am, because sometimes this stage production called Nanaya Yabua goes off tangents. Yes, which means unprofessional. bad advice.
Okay, I
So
got you.
am I concerned? Yes, because what if my bad advice is caught? Aha.
Oh,
Yes, which means I
oh,
need to sanction myself.
got it.
It's for the greater good
Yeah,
of the patient. It is there.
yeah, yeah,
There may be some things, it may suggest diagnosis for
yeah.
the healthcare professional because they may know some, but they may not know everything.
That's right.
AI pulls from all sources,
Yeah,
given the symptoms, and presents to you.
yeah, yeah.
So it may cut their work down, make them able to, think outside the box and diagnose more
Mm-hmm.
effectively and, the medications, yada, yada.
Mm-hmm.
But with people like me with unsanctioned mouth,
Ah, you said unsanctioned mouth.
it may get me into trouble. But by that time, I would have been done from the healthcare
That's
industry.
right.
So, oh yeah, what you know, I'm gone. Okay, my brother, let's continue before I take so much of your time.
Oh,
Let's look at this digital streaming platforms and
yeah.
let's look at us as Africans in the diaspora and
Mm-hmm.
even back home creatives, trying to make our marks in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
In your view, you spoke about Nollywood. Yeah.
Mm.
When you look at what we're producing from the continents and even the diaspora, what are some of the suggestions you can give us? Say 3 suggestions as to the work we're producing, the quality, the quantity, and the message.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a good question. I will say, first of all, own your intellectual property.
Own your intellectual property. This conversation is ours. We take it. We'll
Yep,
die with it.
that's right.
Okay.
Own your intellectual property. The second one is own your means of production, the studio, the microphone, even if you bought it on Amazon, I don't care, whatever it is. So even your YouTube channel that you pay for, like own something in it so that you can always monetize it, right?
Mhm.
And also use it as leverage. If you're going to sell it and somebody else, a big studio wants to use your channel because you have 50,000 followers, which is a conversation now that happens, right?
Mhm.
You have leverage. So we should stop just giving it out. Like I'll just put it and put your copyright on it. Make sure that you're leveraging your labor for a monetary whatever you think is fair for you. You might not even know, but the market's going to dictate that, right?
Yeah.
The other thing is don't stop. Be consistent with your output, right? Like I said, I was able to go to your website. Even you said on this call, oh, this is my old website, but the one that's here now is pretty good. So I'm already excited. Now you have to be consistent, right?
Mhm.
Whether it's the podcast, whatever it is, because I think sometimes creative things like, oh, in a year if I don't go viral, then I'll do something different. Well, you're building a record,
Mhm.
right? And for me, I mean, albeit for me to say, I mean, I started as an actor and I'm doing all kinds of things, but it's consistent in terms of where I'm trying to go, or at least what I'm trying to add to my pot, right? So I think those are the 3 things that resonate with me: copyright, own your product, and be consistent.
Mhm. So if you're giving advice to creatives to trying to make their mark
Yeah.
in this creative industry, what would that be if they're trying to make their mark? Yeah.
Watch people who you admire or you think are
Mhm.
better than you, right? I'm putting it in
Mhm.
quotations,
Mhm.
or so always be connected to your why, or because the how and the where will show up. If you know why, oh, like everything else will start
How
coming.
do you find your why?
That's
That,
a whole podcast.
that's a whole podcast, and that's Simon Sinek. Find your
Yeah.
why.
Find your why.
How do you find your why?
Yeah.
Just give us the abbreviation
Yeah.
podcast, finding your why,
Sure.
because that's huge.
That's huge.
Many of us are just I say atotohu, which is like a cotton in the wind. We just
Mm.
wherever the wind blows us left, we go. Blows
Yeah.
us right, we go.
Yep. I will say this: what lights you up? Meaning, what makes your heart beat faster? What holds your attention? What makes you connected to the thing, whatever that thing is? If it's food, you might have an interest, not necessarily in cooking, but you have an interest in presenting, right? Like there's so many ways you can have a conversation once you figure out what is that thing that's taking my attention. What is it about that thing? And now The why also has to do with you being still and really asking yourself, who am I? Who am I really at the core? Who am I? Am I someone who likes to, right? Like, and be honest. But you see, those are the conversations that, again, those are between you and whatever you believe and you and yourself. You have to take the time to cultivate that voice. Because ultimately, and I know this as an actor, is your impulses and your gut will never lie. Your gut will never lie. When you know something's wrong, and you're like, oh, that's your gut talking to you, right? When you meet somebody and they're like, oh, and then yeah.
I'm going to share a personal story.
Hmm.
So I ran out of I ran out of a marriage.
Literally ran.
I quit.
Okay.
I quit because I quit because of many things, but
Yeah.
one of the things that actually made me say hello, bye,
Yeah.
is number one. I was asked if my podcast and my writing brought me money, and I said not at the moment. And the man said, then stop it.
Yeah. No.
So I went from zero to 1,000 very quickly. Even Bugatti cannot catch me. Ferrari was left behind. It's not what the horsepower was over 1,000.
Gone.
Okay, gone.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that when I was going to Sierra Leone last year for my mission work, it had been sitting on my spirit for a very, very long time. So it was something that I needed. As much as expensive it was, I needed to fulfill that soul purpose.
Mm.
And I did. And I needed to get him out
Yeah.
of the way
Yeah. Yeah.
to
Yeah.
fulfill that soul purpose. And I don't regret it one bit. I am the most happiest woman. Having literally beautiful conversations, soul stirring conversations, inspiring conversations to share with the world.
Mm-hmm.
So if I had allowed, in the name of marriage,
Come on.
to be destroyed, I beg, how would you and I be talking, having this conversation about Aquile and,
It would not be happening.
fulfilling the purpose that I was brought here
Yeah.
to do?
Yeah.
Who am I?
Oof. What a testimony. What a testimony.
So, yes, I
Yeah,
quit.
no. Yeah. You say quit, but I'm hearing. I'm
I
hearing
ran
something
out.
else.
I ran for my life. I ran for my life.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's right. But that needed to happen.
It
That
did.
needs to happen. I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, I could sit here and be like, well, no, because I mean, there are many times, we've just met, but there are many times that I had to make decisions also in my life where I was like, nope, time to go. No, there's nothing I can do that is going to. As a matter of fact, I'm not supposed to do anything. That is literally what they're telling me that I should give up.
No.
That doesn't sit well in my spirit.
And this is where I say, "Nyame ambo me kwasia." God did not create me as a fool.
There you go. Yeah.
There's a reason why in all this world there's Nana Yaya Boa.
There you
And then
go.
there is you,
Yeah.
Ansa
Yeah.
Mauli.
Hey.
Yes.
Yeah.
Akyea.
Yeah.
Swatia, you understand?
Yeah.
So in my books and in my understanding, we were born for a purpose and a reason.
You better preach.
And if I don't fulfill my purpose, I will be the most unhappy person ever alive.
Yeah.
And I need that happiness. I thrive on that happiness.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? The powerful thing that you're saying is it will come out sideways if you choose otherwise.
Yes.
You're compelled to make that choice, or else whatever you really, again, it will come out sideways. You'll be in the supermarket, somebody bumps you and you will not be yourself, right? And everything that you've said is in alignment with who you are. It makes you, that is what life is,
I'll be
you know.
like Jonah, run into the run and be swallowed, run into the whale, and the
That's right.
whale vomits me
The
back
belly,
out.
exactly.
Yes. So there
Yeah.
are certain things that with time, with age,
Yeah.
and when you look at the lives of those ahead of us, we've come to understand
Mm.
that you are this person.
Mm-hmm.
It will transform according to life. It's a
Mm-hmm.
journey,
Mm-hmm.
but you can never run away from you.
Oof.
This is me. All faults and everything.
That's right.
Whether I remove my Davi hair or put my Davi scarf on,
Mm-hmm.
this is me.
That's me.
And
Yeah.
this is the present. I am the present to the world.
That's right. Yeah.
I am a medium,
That's it.
as much as you're a medium.
That's right.
And the world is our stage.
Come on.
Ah, oh, you bringing all the best out of
Come
me
on.
tonight,
Come
today.
on. It's only Tuesday.
It's only
It's
Tuesday.
only Tuesday.
And we are still in February.
Look in the cold.
It's going to be wow. What a wow. So,
You know.
what projects are you working on? Back to serious. What
Okay.
projects
All
are you
right.
working on?
So now I'm currently working on finishing the I guess the spring semester. So we have spring break coming up, but
Mhm.
getting my curriculum down so I can teach these students. So we're working on theater, young audiences, and then we do voiceovers, and then we do monologues and scenes. So I'm working on that academically, and then I'm also teaching an African storytelling class where we're looking at Wole Soyinka's plays, and we're looking at Sutherland, and we're looking at Ghanaian plays as well, and we're looking at radio plays, and so that's the academic kind of part of it. And then professionally, I'm going to be directing. Some actors at the Guthrie Theater. They have
Okay.
a summer program. So it'll be a couple of weeks. I'll work with them there. And then I'm currently in conversations with Augsburg University to direct a production in Minnesota. I'm still looking at scripts and looking at some ideas. And then I'm going to hopefully start also back to acting, I think, when I figure out this summer what it looks like, but getting back on the boards and, looking at scripts but yeah, that's
You know,
that's that's that.
years ago, the same director that watched the play, I think he could have done better,
Mm.
did a collection of my two poetry books. So, Lamentations
Mm.
by the Bank of the Volta and Roots of a Woman.
Oh wow.
So, what he did was fascinating. That picked up he picked out some of the poems and
Mm-hmm.
stringed it, and they acted it as a story. So there is one of my earlier poems for my husband, An Educated
Mm.
Fool.
And we're back.
And we are back. And we are back.
And
This
we're
was
back.
published in 2017, but I'd had that manuscript for maybe 6 or 7 years. It was just sitting.
Oh wow.
Yes, yes. As at the moment, Pedigree is also another manuscript that has been sitting for the past 3 or 4 years.
Oh wow.
That I said, okay, there are so many works sitting.
Yeah.
I need to get out. This afternoon, I spent time working on a book, Where is My Mother,
Mm.
which looks like my mother's experiences on my life,
Mm.
that I thought I was done.
Mm-hmm.
But I read another book, which is a memoir, and I realized that I'm writing a memoir. I didn't, I was writing, but it wasn't supposed to be a memoir, but it is a memoir. That's the
Wow.
realization. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I realized that I'm writing about me with less of my
Mm-hmm.
mother, but I need my mother's voice and my grandmother's voice and my great grandmother's voice and the women in the family's voice, because
Oof.
all of them all their stories have impacted me
Yeah.
somehow.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be like my mother,
Yeah.
but when I look at myself these days, it's like I'm looking more like my mother.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter looks like my mother.
Ooh.
And her name, she's named after my mother, Efia Asantua.
Oh.
So that has led me to, reflecting back on the narratives from my grandfather to my grandmother to my great
Mm.
grandmother. Why some of us have light skin, why some of us have curly skin, why
Mm.
my hair is kinky here and straight at the back because of my great grandmother. Yes. Why some of the women in the family are hard headed and don't normally get married? Because of my great grandmother who couldn't stand nonsense from the great grandfather. And my grandmother couldn't stand nonsense from my grandfather, who, yes, and carried over. So I'm seeing a pattern.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I am seeing a pattern of the kind of women that is in my lineage. And when I look at it from the matriline, my grandmother
Yeah.
is gone, my mother is gone. It's me, my sister, and our two daughters who are both Efia Santua that carry that matriline. Whether we
Through
are
the
conscious
women.
through
Yeah,
the women, yes.
yeah.
So it was when I was writing that this afternoon that's like, oh shit. Sorry.
No, you're good. Yeah, wow. And you just realized that?
I just realized that.
Yeah, you're writing a generational matrilineal memoir.
I don't know, but I just realized that. And then to take it further, my mother's clan is Adriana.
Adriana.
Yes. So the 7 clans of the Akans, Adriana clan, who was technically not supposed to be married to my dad, who is also Adriana, but both of them are not from the same area. My mother is a Kriapin, my father is Asante. But they are from the same clan, which historically means that they come from the same family roots. So Adriana people are not supposed to marry together. You can marry into the Ashona clan or any other clans. Yes, because both of them, all of them are founded by women.
It's a matrilineal society.
Matrilineal society. So it's like I'm unpacking the story of me.
Yeah.
But it's based on the story of all these women
Yeah.
going further back. Yes.
Yeah, that might take you a while to get. Yeah, that's a
So
heavy
what
one.
I thought was done.
No.
I just realized that I was just at the tip.
Yeah.
I was just at the tip, so I'm unpacking now.
Yeah. I don't know how familiar with August Wilson's writing, but he wrote a cycle of plays. So August Wilson was an African-American playwright, and he wrote a cycle of plays. And each play, he will take like a decade, right? 10 years. And his characters live inside of that time period. And so each one is an archetype of a situation or representative, right? And as you read the play, or you see the plays, I mean, in my case, I've done like 3 of them, but as you read the plays, you see the pattern, right? And so my challenge to you is, I love that you said, oh, what I thought, I'm done with it. I'm not done with it. How could it be, right? Is it not the trilogy or, right? Like, but if it was to be in a cycle, if you were to, yeah, even if it's a 2-cycle play or 3, whatever it is, but how are you, I'm going to use this word, playing with time? Right, because you're talking about generations of women, you're talking about matrilineal histories, you're talking about yourself, and how are you the through line through these stories, right? Because I, as an audience member, have to look and be like, oh, okay, yeah, I see her. Oh, this happened. Wait a minute, this woman. Oh, right? Like, how are you connecting those dots? But those are the conversations where, again, I love the fact that we're having this opportunity, where I love hearing a creative talk about
Will you
process.
be? They're not letting the artist out.
No, but you know what? It's because of you, and I mean that with all the respect. I think
Oh, me, I'll accept everything.
And I mean that, again, respectfully. What I mean is, it when you're in a company of people where you can not only it's not even really let your guard down, where you can be yourself, and it's not often that I have the opportunity to talk to my sister and be like, oh yeah, and this and be in a creative space, because we could talk about taxes, we could talk about tariffs, but we're not doing that.
Yes.
So, and I'm also in a point in my life where I love that you said you're releasing so many things, and I'm also releasing a lot of the other people's hangups, right? Oh, you should do this. No, I'm doing exactly what I need to be doing, and there's a different confidence and joy with that. So I think that's kind of what is sitting with me.
I think I have some notes here from listening to some of your other conversations.
Oh my God. Okay.
And I'm going to go over them. I didn't write where I heard them from, but
Okay. All right. Let's see.
number one, the point I put there is that you need to thrive in the world
Mm,
and have the greater ability to tell deeper stories
mhm,
in storytelling,
mhm,
and it has to be the truth and authentic, and that is what brings value. So these are my notes as I was listening to you in other conversations.
mhm,
Yes.
mhm.
And when I said that your students had rated you and I couldn't find where I wrote it, here it is. You are inspirational, you are caring, you give great and amazing lectures, and you always say, well, that is my conversation, that's my part. Participation matters. Likewise, also is that you need to develop your voice in play writing and African films and uh okay.
Mhm.
Yes. And also ask yourself, why am I doing this?
Mm.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. And I think, oh, so, you said theater is life medium, but I put theater is life medicine.
Both two things could be
So,
true.
so I was writing medium. Instead, I wrote medicine. So imagine where my mind was.
No, two things
Yes.
could be true, right? I mean, no, I think that's absolutely true. You know, the definition of acting that I give my students is acting is living truthfully under imaginary circumstances.
Oh.
Yeah. Acting is living truthfully under imaginary circumstances. That means that you have to be in a space of truth first. You
Mm-hmm.
have to live life and then you have to seek truth or however your life is manifesting, what is the truth of that life? And then we get to create the imaginary circumstances,
Mm-hmm.
right? The like you said, the backdrop, the
Yeah.
obstacle, right? But it seems such an easy description for something that's so complicated because you have to live life and then
Mm-hmm.
you got to challenge yourself to be truthful and then you have to be bold enough to imagine what could it be
Mm-hmm.
like.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought, I would have a conversation like this on a Tuesday in the middle of, like you said, February. But here I am, right? And so this moment, that's my life. Now, if I decide, okay, and how, when I'm on stage, how can that inspire me? And how can I tap into this character? If it's there on the page, great, I can use it. If not, it's still mine, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's what, hopefully, you're writing. I believe just the way that you talk about the women in your life. Nana, I really do believe that you use the word vessel and conduit, and that's what you are. You have to be who you are. It's going to those stories have to go out of you. They cannot sit,
What
right?
are
And
they cooking? I had a microwave. This, my people,
th-
is pure kokonsa
this, listen,
on the Nana Yaya Bua podcast.
my God,
I'm sorry.
we no, no, don't be sorry. We started. It must have been what, 1 o'clock. Now it's now it's dinner time.
Hey, don't worry. You go for dinner. I'm listening.
No, but that's it. That's all I was saying. That's
Mm-hmm.
you know, you have created something really special, and God is not done with you by no stretch of the imagination, nor is He done with me, right? And so we're just mortal beings right now, and I think we have to live in the light of the possible. What's
Mm-hmm.
possible as creatives? That's why people are moved by your stories. That's why people are attracted to your podcast because they want to learn something, they want to see themselves, they want to connect, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why I do theater because I want to remind people we're always seeking connection.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Uh, so, yes, I was looking at the narrative of America today
Yeah. Yeah.
that is out there in the world,
Yeah.
and the narratives of us as Black people, what we want to tell the world, what our story is, irrespective of what is going on. And more so that, whose narrative of the world are you taking? Are you creating, writing your future, or you are allowing the so-called values or valueless of this person to actually write your future for you?
Yes, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think,
So
yeah.
mhm.
Mhm.
That's how I came up with Trump storytelling and the Black narrative.
Ugh, you know, to see this country, because I live in the States, obviously, to see this
Yeah.
country give Kamala Harris less than 100 days to run for president, it's a joke. It tells you everything of what they think is possible. And yet she did a fabulous job. And now that we're here, we have the temerity of asking, she should come and help us, or what do you think about XYZ? You've made your opinions, and I'm talking about the people in America who voted, or those who didn't vote. You made your opinion known. And this country has to rectify that it's problematic history with Black women. Obama was one thing, right? But Black women are very different. You also know, statistically speaking, that Black women in America are the most educated, right?
Yes.
They get the most masters, PhDs.
Yes.
So it's not about their ability. It's not about merit, right? It's about access. It's about access. And it's not even about equality in terms of being the same. We're not the same, right? It's about equity, making sure that everybody has what they need in order to be successful. And again, if you are ignorant of the history of this country, and I'm not talking about us here on this call, I'm saying at large, writ large, American history, you come here and you think anything is possible. Yes, but you never hear the but, right? If you look a certain way, if you have a certain level of access to goods and services, if you have money, if you come from money, generationally speaking, right? So to answer your question, I think we are at a time now where we can have these conversations because we're trying to move forward. Anything that doesn't have these considerations in it is a step back. And especially for us as Ghanaians, we just had an election. We have the year of return and all the things that are happening. Look at what's happening in Burkina Faso and Mali, right?
Yes.
Change is happening whether we want it to or not.
Yes.
So where are we going to be on the pages of history? Are we going to be the ones who are like, or are we going to be the ones who like roll up our sleeves and give our kids an opportunity to participate, to fight? That's what it's all about, with love. I mean, and I don't mean a fufu shishi emotional thing. So I think, and Trump is, in many ways, at least in America right now, is presenting a face of regression, right? And that's not interesting. We've been back there. We've been there, done that. What is there back there, right? And that's not to insult the people who fought for our liberation and the freedom that we enjoy now. But when we talk about being isolated, nothing thrives in isolation, So that's
Amen. So as we're speaking of that, it drives right into my last question, which is on legacy.
So my father passed away from prostate cancer, and I remember.
Sorry
Thank you.
about your loss. Yeah.
Yes. So I remember he never complained. He would go to his treatments. He would just do all the things. Never did I hear him be like, "Oh, I wish I could." No. And so my legacy is that I hope that, very much like my father, that I've done everything that I wanted to do. Right? Like travel, eat that food, do the things, right? So that there's no regret, because you had this one life. You should live it.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I hope that my legacy is about being present, being in the moment, and give it your all.
Amen.
Give it
Hopefully
your all.
you didn't go through any existential crisis, because I went through mine.
We can talk about death and grief on another podcast. That is death and grief.
I have an unfinished manuscript, actually, that started when I was doing community nursing, and I had a lot of palliative patients, and it was my intention every time to ask them, questions and learn from them. So I put that together, and it's somewhere. I need to finish it up. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
What? That would be
And
amazing.
whilst I was writing it, I came across an author who had written The Five Regrets of the Dying. And as I was reading it, it's like, oh, I heard this. This person told me this. I remember one gentleman, full beard, like looked like Father Christmas, but he had diabetes, so both amputated feet, and I needed to do wound care. And I realized he was really on the first time he saw me, I was one of the few Black women doing this community nursing. He was looking at me, kind of, and then we started talking, and I started asking him about his life. The man has lived. The man has lived, and he's the one that advised me, don't let anybody hold you back. That you only have memories when you become like myself and you have nowhere to go.
Oof.
So all he had is his memories, which I was curious enough to listen to. He told me, if you want to ride that motorcycle, ride it. If you want to shoot the damn gun, there's a firing range here. Go learn how to do it.
Yes.
If you want to go hiking, do it.
Mm-hmm.
Everything, do it. Do not have regrets. If he hadn't done it, he would have been regretting. He hunted in the bush, ate possum, ate bear meat, ate this, ate that, and he lived in an RV. He shared all this with me. So I
That's
said, Bernadette,
amazing.
why not?
It's amazing. He just told you all the stuff.
Told me all this stuff. And this is what I realized, that, you know what? If you're in search for knowledge and wisdom, if you ask, people will share. And so it became a wisdom collection. For lack of, it became a wisdom collection for me, that, okay, this is this man's story. He has gone through all these for, God knows, 65 years, and he's distilled it and given me this.
Just, yeah.
Oh, yeah, take them, run them.
My God. You can't sit on this. You have to do something with it.
I met a lady, Auntie Minion. He's
very impressive, again, but your personality and the way you present doesn't reveal that, right? And I think that's a mistake on not your part, on our part. That we meet you and then we make assumptions.
Yeah. And assumptions are a human element that I always tell people, it kills us. Never assume. Listen to the person. Ask questions.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I've learned more from you just listening to your journey. I mean, the books, the stories, the painting, the change in life, the son, the daughter, right? I mean, yeah.
That was my other last question. What have you learned? Because in one of your conversations, you asked, what did you learn today?
Yeah, I always
people to ask themselves, what did you learn today? So I was going to ask you the same thing, but you've answered it.
Yeah, no, I mean, yes, I will say, as a way of answering your question as earnestly and as honestly, you have reminded me today that I'm not alone. You have reminded me that I am wonderfully and fearfully made, and I am I'm in my light, and that I get to do this, right, with people who are also doing what they're doing. So I feel happy. I feel really, really lucky that I had a time to kind of be with you and on a podcast. And I'm like, what time is it? Like, time meant nothing for me for a minute. Like, I was like, but also I'm really excited about you and what you're doing. And it's reminding me that, again, I'm not alone. Other things are happening that are going to change the world. So
and we
that's
get
how
to
I
be
feel.
part of it.
Yeah.
We get to be part of it. We get to write the story how we need and how we want it written.
Yes.
By ourselves and not by anybody else.
Yeah.
And as the account will say, Titi Wobika, Titi Wobichre. The past has a lot to say. The past has a lot to teach.
Oh my gosh. These t-shirts need to come out. Titi Wobika.
Titi Wobichre.
Titi Wobichre.
Yes.
I'm saying, you just put the t-shirt and then, yeah. Okay, well,
How do my audience find you? Because now hey.
I can be found at Binghamton University. I'll be here this semester and hopefully, God willing, next year.
Mhm.
Um, this summer, I'll be at the Guthrie Theater. If you look at guthrie.org or dot, yeah, I'll be there. And then you can find me on the social medias. I'm trying to detoxify because we're in America. It's very interesting what's happening with the news and all the things. So I'm trying to detoxify on the internet. But I'm Ansa Akyea.com. You can find me there. Also Instagram. I'm not on Facebook right now. It's very interesting world. So,
I
but yeah,
don't blame you. I found you on LinkedIn. We
LinkedIn.
spoke on LinkedIn, and I personally, because of the professionalism on LinkedIn, I love to have conversations on LinkedIn. Then I know the quality and the kind of people I'm having those conversations with, and I can see the resume or the body of their work that they do. And so you find me a lot of
See,
times, having conversations on LinkedIn.
I will take that note. Thank you. I think you're right. That might be my next shift because I think you're
Yes.
right. Hmm.
I love professionalism, and I deal
Mm,
well with
hmm.
professionalism. Bemena,
Hey, my
efo,
sister. Oh,
akpe na misia.
oh,
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hmm, thank
thank
you.
you. Oh, you're the best.
Medasi,
Oh,
medasi,
what?
merci beaucoup.
De rien, de rien, de rien. No, I'm speechless. You're a polyglot. Ever and you just are pulling all the French and English.
Eh,
Listen, listen. You wear it well though. So
thank you.
keep going, my sister. Keep going. I'm so proud of you. I'm going to continue to just lift you up in all the things that you're doing. If our paths ever cross, it will be problems.
Been watching the Nana Yaya Boa podcast with Efo Ansa
Oh,
Akyea. Thank you so much for saying yes. Thank you for coming on this podcast. Thank you for making it lively. This has been an incredible, incredible, incredible conversation. And I know we are not done.